Ladies and gentlemen, honored guests, distinguished recipient today, Your Highness, Mr. Premier, Chancellors, welcome to each and every one of you. I thank you for giving me this privilege and this honor today to say a few words of welcome to all of you. Today is going to be a wonderful, wonderful day, something that has never been done before, I believe, and that it's an acknowledgement to a wonderful recipient that has provided a light in this wonderful journey called education. That's an inspiration to the youth that follow and to all of us who have children and descendants, that we can say and look forward to the wonderful institutions that we work together to try to provide some lessons and instructions to our young people to make this an even better place, which is hard to do because Vancouver and British Columbia is so beautiful. But in closing, I just want to say once again, on behalf of our Hunkaminam speaking peoples, welcome and thank you very much to both institutions for acknowledging that they are on the unceded traditional territories of our peoples. Good
afternoon. Please be seated. I'm Anne Giardini, the Chancellor of Simon Fraser University. And on behalf of the University of British Columbia and Simon Fraser University, I'm honored to welcome you all here today. I'd like to express some thank yous to Councillor Howard Grant, who is here from the Musqueam people, who shared those warm and authentic words of greeting, for which we all thank you. Carl Point and Alec Dan from the Musqueam people, who drummed, and Andrew Lee and Zephan Nicol of the SFU Pipe Band, who piped in the academic procession. And let me further acknowledge the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples on whose traditional territory we are so very privileged to gather this afternoon here in downtown Vancouver. I would like to welcome the Vancouver Ismaili Youth Choir, conducted by Lindley Lewis, who will lead us all in singing O Canada. Please rise.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free.
Wonderful. Please be seated. And thank you to the youth choir. You have obviously practiced. I've been to many hockey games, and that's the best rendition I've heard of O Canada. Friends, we're gathered here to honor a remarkable leader, His Highness the Aga Khan, who we will introduce more fully a little bit later in the program. I'd like to thank his family and friends for joining us, including his son, Prince Ali Muhammad, who is here with us. It's my great pleasure to welcome a dear friend now, the Lieutenant Governor of British Columbia, Her Honor, the Honorable Janet Austin. Your Honor.
Your Highness, honored guests, Ms. Anne Giardini, Chancellor, Mr. Michael Korenberg, Chair of the UBC Board of Governors, Premier Horgan, Chief Wayne Sparrow, leaders from the Coast Salish First Nations, Presidents Andrew Petter and Santa Ona, and many, many distinguished guests. I too would like to acknowledge the Coast Salish peoples, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, upon whose traditional territory we gather today, and to thank them for sharing these lands in peace and friendship. I would also like to thank our guests here today for the gift of a traditional blessing, Haichka Siam. Thanks also to retired Commander King Wan, Royal Canadian Navy, who joins me today as Honorary Aide-de-Camp. And to the many members of the Ismaili community who join us this afternoon, I say, Yali Madad. May Ali be with you, dear friends. For indeed, your community is very dear to me. I speak today from the perspective of someone who has been inspired by the generous leadership of His Highness the Aga Khan, and greatly enriched by the friendship the members of your spiritual community have shown to me and to my work. I've been welcomed many times to the Jamat Khana Center in Burnaby, a place of gathering, of reflection, of intellectual exchange, a place of extraordinary beauty that reflects and inspires the values of humility, forward outlook, friendship, and dialogue that we celebrate today. I've enjoyed gracious hospitality, appreciated music and art, been stimulated by thoughtful and intelligent dialogue, and been inspired by the many examples of generosity and kindness to the broader community. These are the values inculcated by His Highness the Aga Khan. Led by His Highness, the Ismaili community in Canada has become an exemplar of success in building inclusive communities. And this is manifest in so many ways. In a focus on the elimination of poverty, in an emphasis on education and knowledge, in a deeply held commitment to community service and to volunteerism, and in a belief in the value of pluralism and diversity, and in the conscious development of community partnerships and collaborations such as I have been privileged to enjoy in my previous professional and volunteer work. On a deeper level, the Ismaili community's faith has evolved with the leadership of His Highness, who has interpreted the essence of the faith to meet the needs of life in an ever-changing world. His Highness shows us how to live well and contribute generously in a world which is no longer homogeneous or uniform in creed and ancestry. He inspires us to work on behalf of all citizens, to embrace people of diverse cultures, faiths, and belief systems. As the Queen's representative, and on behalf of all British Columbians, I am deeply honored to congratulate His Highness the Aga Khan for the honors bestowed today, and to thank him for his extraordinary leadership and for helping us to make Canada a place of peace and tolerance that is inclusive of all. Thank you. Haichka Siam.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. We could not be more delighted to have you join us today for this historic honorary degree conferral. Regretfully, UBC Chancellor Lindsay Gordon has been unable to be here this afternoon, but he does send his greetings and his warmest wishes to His Highness on this celebratory occasion. I'd like to acknowledge a few of our distinguished guests, both on the platform and in the audience, including the Honourable John Horgan, Premier of British Columbia, Chief Wayne Sparrow from the Musqueam people, Councillor Chris Lewis from the Squamish people and SFU's Board of Governors, Councillor Howard Grant from the Musqueam people, President Ferouz Rasool from the Aga Khan University, Dr. Shamush Kazim Laka, Chair of the Board of Trustees of the University of Central Asia, SFU's Chancellor Emeritus, Dr. Brant Louis, SFU's President Emeritus, Dr. Michael Stevenson, President and Vice Chancellor, Professor Santa Ono, and President and Vice Chancellor, Professor Andrew Petter. From both of our institutions, we have with us board chairs, Michael Kornberg and Fiona Robin, and members of the boards of governors and past board chairs, members of Senate, vice presidents and deans, and honorary degree recipients. We are also joined by the Honourable Mobina Jaffer and the Honourable Yuan Pao Wu, both from the Senate of Canada and members of Parliament, the Honourable Shane Simpson, BC's Minister of Social Development, several members of the Legislative Assembly, and members of the Consular Corps. I don't know who could be left, but that's some of the group that's gathered today. And I thank you all for joining us. I welcome all of us to a unique gathering place and a remarkable first. For the first time, Simon Fraser University and the University of British Columbia, already great friends, stand together and to each offer honorary doctorates to a single candidate, His Highness the Aga Khan, Imam of the Shia Ismaili Muslim community. There are two aspects to the honorary degree that are important to make note of. First, this is not in any manner an informal or alternative degree. On the contrary, an honorary degree is the highest honor that our universities or any university can bestow. The conferral of an honorary degree is our university's opportunity to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of an exceptional individual. In honoring an honorary degree candidate, we inspire our graduates and our communities with an example of what may be achieved in a well-lived life. As well, in identifying a candidate, and especially one with the unparalleled status and accomplishments of His Highness the Aga Khan, our universities are honored in turn by our association, in fact, on this occasion, very deeply honored. At a time in history when the institutions of democracy and civil society appear to be under unprecedented strains, it would be difficult to point to or even imagine another leader with His Highness's record of constancy and integrity. His example fairly demands acknowledgement and assuredly deserves emulation. His work in our world most certainly deserves this unprecedented recognition. I would like now to invite the Presidents and Vice Chancellors of the University of British Columbia and Simon Fraser University to come together in the reading of a joint citation, and we will begin with UBC President Professor Santa Ono.
I am deeply honored today with my esteemed colleague, SFU President Andrew Petter, to welcome and present His Highness the Aga Khan, Imam of the world's Shia Ismaili Muslims. We are gathered today to confer honor upon His Highness. Specifically, and for the first time in our two institutions' history, we are here to confer honorary degrees from both of our universities. The honorary degree is the highest honor that a university can bestow, one that recognizes the accomplishments and contributions of an exceptional individual. In honoring a candidate of eminence and excellence, we also offer a public illustration of our own values and ambitions. We do so to inspire our graduates and our community. To this end, I can think of no candidate who so deserves this unprecedented joint recognition than His Highness the Aga Khan. Speaking from the perspective of my own university, the University of British Columbia has defined its purpose as pursuing excellence in research, learning, and engagement to foster global citizenship and to advance a sustainable and just society across British Columbia, Canada, and the world. Related to that pursuit, our vision is inspiring people, ideas, and actions for a better world. Who in that regard could be a better exemplar than His Highness the Aga Khan? The Aga Khan Development Network, the AKDN, works in more than 30 countries, operating roughly 1,000 programs and institutions. It employs more than 80,000 people, invests more than $1 billion each year in nonprofit development activities around the world. This is a profound example of global citizenship, and one that is inclusive of race and ideology. The AKDN is guided by the ethical principles of Islam, particularly consultation, solidarity with those less fortunate, self-reliance, and human dignity. But the Aga Khan's leadership is not restricted to a particular community, country, or region. Rather, the AKDN focuses on the poor and vulnerable, although, as many UBC students and graduates can attest, It also supports programs in Europe and here in North America. Working with every religion, race, ethnicity, and gender, pluralism is a central pillar of the AKDN's ethical framework. We are all, again, inspired by his examples. His Highness Prince Karim Aga Khan is the 49th Imam of the Ismaili Muslims. In that role, he is the spiritual leader of the 15 million Ismailis, a multi-ethnic community dispersed among more than 25 countries, including South and Central Asia, Africa, and the Middle East, Western Europe, and North America. There are more than 100,000 Ismailis in Canada alone. Renowned for the good works of the AKDN, the Aga Khan has demurred when people call him a philanthropist. He says, rather, that his mandate requires that he use the office of the Ismaili Imamat, which he inherited to improve the quality of life for the world's most vulnerable. He presents his work not as an act of generosity, but as the exercise of his responsibility. And if we all took the same view in our own lives, it would be such a better world. Born Prince Karim Aga Khan in Geneva, Switzerland on December 13th, 1936. The Aga Khan is the eldest son of the Prince Ali Khan and his first wife, the Princess Tajudullah. It is believed that the Aga Khan is a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, and through the Prophet's daughter, Fatima az-Zahra, and her husband, and Muhammad's cousin, Ali, who was the first Imam in Shia Islam. The Aga Khan spent his early years in Nairobi, Kenya, where he began his education under private tutelage before returning to Switzerland and boarding school at the Institut du Rosé. He then studied Islamic history at Harvard University, where he graduated cum laude in 1959 with a Bachelor of Arts and a varsity H for soccer. As an athlete of accomplishment, he also competed on behalf of Iran as a downhill skier in the 1964 Olympics. On July 11th, 1957, at just 20 years of age, the young prince was elevated to the role of Imam. The prince's grandfather, who had served as Imam for the previous 72 years, said he was designating his grandson because, and here I quote from the late Imam's will itself, "I am convinced that it is in the best interest of the state, of the Shia Ismaili Muslim community, that I should be succeeded by a young man who has been brought up and developed during recent years and in the midst of the new age, and who brings a new outlook on the life of his office as Imam. In more than 60 years of service, His Highness, the Aga Khan, has proved the wisdom of his grandfather's choice. It is now with great pleasure that I invite my colleague and friend, SFU President Andrew Petter, to continue the citation.
Thank you, President Ono, Your Highness, Your Honor, Premier, Madam Chancellor, honored guests. As with UBC, Simon Fraser University is committed to the values of education, pluralism, and global citizenship as drivers of social betterment. But SFU's association with the example of His Highness the Aga Khan also relates to two other dimensions. First, SFU aspires to be Canada's most community-engaged research university for the benefit of our students and of the communities we serve. And I can think of no better demonstration of the value of community engagement than that exemplified by the Aga Khan Development Network. Second, we at SFU have committed ourselves to marshaling university resources to build social capital and to promote community betterment, goals that have been evident in the Aga Khan's priorities for more than half a century. The advancement of education by the AKDN is perhaps the most obvious illustration of this priority. The AKDN engages more than 2 million learners a year, including 750,000 in early childhood development and more than 1 million at the elementary and high school levels through the Aga Khan schools and the Aga Khan academies. At the post-secondary level, the Aga Khan University and the University of Central Asia proudly claim 15,000 alumni, including doctors, nurses, teachers, and school managers who are raising standards and playing leading roles in their fields and communities. In the area of health, the AKDN supports a network of hospitals, including the Aga Khan University Hospital in Nairobi, considered one of the best on the continent of Africa. The AKDN is also a leading supporter of health research, especially in areas such as tuberculosis that affect vulnerable populations. In support of civil society, the Aga Khan rural support programs have embodied and employed grassroots democracy, participatory governance, and pluralism as springboards for improving the conditions of more than 8 million people living in poor and rural areas. And the AKDN supplies agricultural aid to more than 100,000 cotton farmers, while its social programs offer microfinance, education, health, and sanitation support. In the category of humanitarian assistance, the AKDN is often one of the first on-the-ground responders after a natural or human-caused disaster, and one of the last to leave, working on long-term redevelopment for the benefit of those affected. It frequently applies that same focus in remote and fragile geographies, working to reduce poverty, ensure food security, and improve the livelihoods of smallholder farmers and their families. Also in the realm of social infrastructure, the Aga Khan Trust for Culture has shown how culture can be a catalyst for improving the quality of life. The Aga Khan Historic Cities program conducts complex restoration and conservation projects. It creates parks and gardens, and it plans and operates cultural assets from Afghanistan to Zanzibar. Indeed, His Highness earlier this week inaugurated the Aga Khan Garden in Edmonton, bringing to Canada some of the extraordinary cultural legacies of Muslim civilizations. In an area where culture, education, and social infrastructure intersect, the Aga Khan supports the Aga Khan Award for Architecture. Since 1977, this has been one of the world's preeminent architectural awards, focused on everything from village planning to environmental sanitation. In addition to a vast array of not-for-profit initiatives, the Aga Khan has also established the Aga Khan Fund for Economic Development, which invests in ethnically run, self-sustaining companies that create employment, provide essential goods and services, and promote economic development. The fund underwrites entrepreneurs and development from an award-winning mobile phone company in Afghanistan to hydroelectric plants that provide half the electricity to Uganda, a country, by the way, that it ejected its Ismaili population in 1972. This is a leader who has much to teach us about truth and reconciliation. Your Highness, will you please step forward? And so we say, in looking to this remarkable record and in celebrating the alignment of our values, it is clear that His Highness the Aga Khan is richly deserving of the honors we bestow today. And we, in turn, are profoundly honored to be in association with His Highness and the honors that we provide to our two institutions.
Your Highness, by the virtue of the authority vested in me and in the Senate of the University of British Columbia, I hereby admit you to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
hand, Your Highness, by virtue of the authority vested in me and in the Senate of Simon Fraser University, I do hereby admit you to the degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa. Now, in keeping with an extraordinary honor, we will proceed with an unprecedented ceremony. Why not? Under normal circumstances, a single president would cap and gown the honoree, adding a hood that denotes the nature of the honorary degree, in this instance, a Doctor of Laws. Today, however, President Petter will present a gown from SFU, followed by President Ono, who will present the hood from UBC, thus joining these recognitions in the spirit of His Highness's commitments to shared purpose and to unity. Great pleasure to officially welcome His Highness as a member of Simon Fraser University. And I invite President Ono for the University of British Columbia's degree presentation.
Your Highness, it gives me great pleasure to officially welcome His Highness as a member of the University of British Columbia Convocation.
Congratulations, Your Highness, and welcome to our communities. I'm thrilled to announce a remarkable performance produced by UBC's School of Music and SFU's School for the Contemporary Arts. I'd like you to join me in welcoming Imran Amershi, Scheherazade Cooper, Yijia Feng, and Magdalena Ho. They will perform for us Sun on Water. Thank you to our performers for that extraordinary collaboration. What wonderful beauty we can make when we come together. I would like to now invite the chair of the UBC Board of Governors, Michael Korenberg, for a few closing remarks. Michael.
Thank you, Chancellor Giardini, and thank you all so much for having joined us today and helped make this unique ceremony so special. I too am honored to share the podium today and inspired by the example of leadership we have celebrated with this joint degree conferral. For further inspiration, let me extract a few quick lessons from the words of His Highness the Aga Khan himself, who spoke with great eloquence about pluralism in delivering the 10th annual LaFontaine Baldwin Lecture in Toronto just a few years ago. In this hyper-connected world, His Highness cautioned that we could not take our newfound connectedness for granted. He said technologies, after all, are merely instruments. They can be used for good or ill. How we use them will depend in every age and in every culture, not on what sits on our desktops, but on what is in our heads and in our hearts. So lesson number one, or perhaps challenge number one, as we leave today, let us keep that wisdom in our consciousness and take the work of the AgaCon Development Network to our hearts. In the same lecture, the AgaCon also challenged us to make what he called the concerted, deliberate efforts to build social institutions and cultural habits which take account of difference, which see diversity as an opportunity rather than a burden. Ours is a rich, resourceful, and highly diverse community. On this great day, even our honorary degree is an expression of pluralism representing the coming together of two great universities. So again, as we leave today, I bid all of you to embrace the wisdom and example of His Highness, the AgaCon Doctor of Laws. You're all now invited to attend the reception on the second floor. The SFU pipers are going to lead the way. Please rise and remain standing at your places until the platform party has fully recessed. Thank you so much.
And trying to get two universities not only to come together, but to make their convocation ceremonies reconcile is a tribute to His Highness, because I don't think anyone else could have gotten us to actually put in the effort.
On behalf of everyone here, I want to thank you for all of the work you've done tirelessly and the inspiration you give to the Ismaili community here in British Columbia, who are so giving, and as a tribute to your Diamond Jubilee, are committing 1 million hours of service to the community. Truly inspiring, and that inspiration comes from you. So thank you so much for all you have done, and to UBC and to Simon Fraser, job well done. Klansmen and Thunderbirds together. Thank you very much.
It's historic. It's wonderful that we're here today together to honor His Highness. Not everybody here knows, but I asked, and he said it's all right for me to say that after the ceremony, he has challenged us, both institutions, to build upon today and to work together with his universities that he supports to serve others, to work on areas of common interest between our institutions and your institutions, to work on things such as regenerative medicine and the health networks. And when we talk about honorary degrees, we often talk about honoring the recipient. But today, it's absolutely true that you honor us, you inspire us, and we will accept that challenge and work together and work with you to make the world a better place. Congratulations, sir.